So if you're looking at woodland, trying to decide what sort of woodland you have, for instance looking for overstood hazel coppice that might be possible to restore, how do you decide from a distance what's in a woodland? Well, yeah, you can see conifers. They got sort of pointy dark green tops that stick up above the typical canopy of broadleaves. But apart from that, you can't really tell anything. If we look in here, for instance, at this gate, over there in the distance, you can see beyond those pylons, the pointy tops of conifers. That'll be a conifer plantation. In here, someone's taken a field of broadleaf trees. I've no idea what sort, but they spent quite a lot of money on it. Obviously, looking to raise around them as they put in these tree shelters with barbed wire on. And over here, is that woodland? Is that several hedge lines sort of overgrown to create woodland tree canopies, or tree canopies? I can see an oak here. These are ash blowing in the wind. That one on the right, which is grayer, see it there? It's white willow. On the left here, more ash, and then sallow. One of the very many species of willow. This is the view you get from a typical Dorset lane. Sorry about the bit noise. Got honeysuckle. Someone there's put up a bird feeder, which is nice. Not quite so good is nailing into the tree with two 4-inch nails. And this tree at some point is probably going to need tree surgery work. You can see this long discontinuity between these two stems. So shoving nails in it is going to make that more difficult. As someone who runs chainsaws as part of my livelihood, that strikes a chord with me. Over here we've got woodland boundary, which is fairly typical of a lot of woodlands in this area. Oh, we've got a sunflower and a sort of plastic bobbins. Well, this boundary is fairly typical of a lot of woodlands. It's a lot of oak, but in amongst it there's hazel. And we've got a bank in here. See it running along here? Or is it a bank? You'd have to come back in the winter and have a really good look. Another little hazel over there. If we look over here, yeah, you got planted conifers. So this is forestry, isn't it? Ah, or is it? Or is this what's called a plantationised ancient woodland? There's a lot of hazel all the way through here. You can see it regrowing where there's been wind blow. All these dead trees have snapped off. And all these trees are doing rather poorly. They've not been thinned, and they've competed with the hazel for nutrients, which to my mind is a good thing. The hazel has trundled along underneath the fairly sparse canopy of these, I think they're larches, which are deciduous. So this, I think, is hazel coppice, which has been planted up with conifers. Possible plantationised ancient woodland. Let's have a bit of a trespass off the main path. That's great sedge. In context, that's an ancient woodland indicator. When they came in here and knocked all these over, they did some disturbance, which is why these foxglove are here. Biennial, they like disturbance, seed that's in the ground and sprout following. As we walk through here, you can see lots of hazel. There's a sycamore there, and hazel, hazel, hazel everywhere you look. So this, I would argue, could be restored as hazel coppice. What one would need to do to be absolutely certain that it's former hazel coppice, and I'm pretty much certain just by looking at it, is actually to go on the old parish maps and look at the first edition ordnance survey, which is not all conqueringly accurate, and other map sources, and see if this is called coppice or wood. Shrubs would suggest that it's secondary woodland. And see how far back an area of woodland on this patch where we are now actually goes. If it goes back before 1600, it's likely that it's ancient. Also, if you're surveying, the best thing to do would be to come back in the winter or in the very early spring, because that's the best time to survey for hazel, because it's in catkin, and underneath it woodland indicators like your bluebell, which has gone over now, and other species are in flower, much easier to see. We're now in early June and we're a bit late to do woodland surveys. So, plantationised hazel coppice, I think, could be restored, and perhaps should be restored. You know, these conifers are failing. But unfortunately, the only grant aid that is realistically available at any reasonable rate at the moment is likely to replant with conifers. And that would basically mean that everything is cut, all the conifers taken out, and a new crop planted over the top. And if the replacement conifer crop was planted with, say, western red cedar, which is not deciduous, that would be the end of the hazel.